Hey guys, Cece back with another video, and today's video is going to be all about the setting powders. If this is your first time watching me or my channel, make sure you go ahead and click that subscribe button. Also, make sure you go ahead and click the little notification bell right next to the subscribe button so you can always be notified of all of my future videos because you never want to miss a single upload. You also want to make sure you're following me on Instagram at YvetteLuvsBeauty and also subscribed to my family vlog channel right here on YouTube at Bradley TV. Now let's jump into the notification gang shout out. Okay y'all, so I wanted to do this video because I get so many questions on setting powders all the time. This is probably one of my most asked questions is about setting powders. Why do you use setting powders? What do you need so many setting powders for? When do you use what setting powders with what concealer and what foundation and blah, 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 blah. I get questions about setting powders all the time. And so I wanted to use this video to break them down for you and let you know at least what I use setting powders for, why I use them, and when I use them, okay? So I have 10, actually 11 setting powders sitting in front of me, and so I just wanted to show you guys a range of coverages, a range of colors, and these are like different finishes and things like that. So I wanted to show you guys all of these setting powders because these are like my holy grail absolute favorites. If you guys saw my setting powder declutter, if you haven't, I'll link it up there, but if you've seen my setting powder declutter, you know that I have so many setting powders. I just got rid of a bunch and I still have a lot. So these are like my favorite, my cream of the crop, and I'm sure there's some more great ones out there, but these are the ones that I tend to stick to and tend to love, and I will tell you why I love each one. So first things first, setting powders are a must for me. I have oily skin, like oily skin. It's not so terrible right now, like now that it's still cold out, but once the summertime comes and the springtime comes and the weather warms up, my skin just becomes chicken grease. Like seriously, you could probably fry chicken on my face. Like it's really, really bad. And so I use setting powders all the time just because of that. So I have setting powders that I would use under my eyes for concealer that I'm going to use every single time I do my concealer because I don't want my concealer to move or crease or anything like that. And then I have face powders that I'm going to put on top of my foundation and all of my cream products to make sure that everything stays in place. I may also want a little more coverage, so I may use it for that as well. So like I said, I have 11 sitting in front of me. I have one that is pretty unique that I'm going to show you guys and get it out of the way first, and then we're going to go into under eye setting powders, and then we'll go into face setting powders. So the first one I have here is this Hourglass. This is the Ambient Lighting Powder in Dim Light. So I've told you guys this before. I've talked about this before. For this, I do not use it all over the face. I do not use it to set my concealer. What I will use it for is to dust away the setting powder underneath my eyes. So you guys know sometimes I do like to bake just to make sure that everything stays in place, especially on those days where I have a long day or I'm going to an event or something like that. I do love to bake. So when I get ready to dust that setting powder from underneath my eyes, I will take just a small brush, maybe something like this, and I'll dip it into this powder and I'll go ahead and dust away the setting powder using this powder. And this powder doesn't leave you any more coverage or anything like that, but I feel like it really does kind of give you like this filter on the face, and it just looks really, really good underneath, not completely underneath the eyes, but it's just kind of like right here. You can just kind of see it filtering and removing that setting powder so that you just look really smooth under there. So I love using this for that. This is just the small one, and this has lasted me forever. So that is what I use this for. So let's move into under eye setting powders. A lot of these you're probably going to be able to guess because I talk to you guys all the time about them. So I'm just going to go through them fairly quickly so we're not here all day. And again, a lot of these you guys are probably going to be able to guess, okay? So for under eye setting powder, I've become quite bougie and I don't have any drugstore options for you. There are some at the drugstore that I like, but when I'm talking about the best of the best, the ones that I have in my collection, these are the ones that I rely on. If I know my look needs to be bomb and I'm going somewhere, I'm going to choose one of these 5 setting powders, and that's just that. So the first one I want to show you guys is the La Mer, the powder. Let's just get it out of the way right now. This powder is $95 at Sephora or Nordstrom or any place like that where you can find high-end brands. And La Mer is just like a really bougie high-end brand. I had never even thought about trying this until I saw a recommendation from another YouTuber and I was like, okay girl, fine. I bit the bullet. I got it during the last Sephora sale, and I've been literally using it ever since. I love it. So it has almost a, not sparkle, but it's not completely matte underneath the eyes, which I like. I've been getting away from really matte powders underneath the eyes just because sometimes I find that they make me look a little dry and a little cakey under there, and nobody wants to look cakey or creasy up underneath the eyes because it makes you look older. So keep that in mind. So this powder right here, it's not completely white translucent powder. It does have like a vanilla tint to it, and again it does have a little bit of sheen to it underneath the eyes. I love that for powder now. I never used to, but I do. This powder is very finely milled and it's just super silky, so you're not going to get cakey or anything like that up underneath the eyes. Do I think any powder is worth $95? No. However, I really, really love this powder. I do have to say that. So if you're in the market and just looking to buy something bougie, honey, try this. Next, let's go with another like tried and true favorite. You guys probably know I was going to talk about this. This is the Laura Mercier translucent setting powder. This is the powder that I have been using for, gosh, I don't even know how long, probably 7-8 years now. I've been using this powder for a very, very long time and I absolutely love it. So Laura Mercier has several different powders. She has the translucent loose powder, and this actually comes in 2 shades. So if you're a little deeper and you don't like the translucent, it does come in a deeper shade. You can also use that all over the face. It's a little deep for me to use all over the face, but you can use it all over the face if that's your skin tone. But this is the one that I use and that I've repeatedly purchased. This is another one. It's not completely white. It has a light vanilla tint to it, and again, just super silky powder. This is probably one of the best powders on the market. If you ask me what should you put underneath your eyes to make sure your concealer stays in place, I'm probably going to recommend this one right here. I believe it's around $40, so not super expensive and not super cheap, but I mean, loose powders will last you for so long. So even if you do spend $40, I mean, I think it's totally worth it because again, it will last you forever. This is one of the best powders that you will find on the market. It is heavily talked about on YouTube, and anytime you're talking about a setting powder, this one's pretty much gonna come up. It doesn't give me flashback, neither does the La Mer or any of these powders that I'm gonna talk about. So that's another good thing. If you're taking photos, you're not going to get any flashback and you're just going to look absolutely flawless with this. Now, a newer product that I have that I had to mention in this video because I've been loving it is the new Pat McGrath Labs. This is the Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Blurring Under Eye Setting Powder. That's a mouthful. So this powder, this is another one that has like a small bit of sheen to it. It's not completely matte, but again, I love that. And so this one's a pressed powder. I don't normally like to put pressed powders underneath the eyes. I have a couple that I have liked throughout the years, but it's been very few and far between. This one I have been loving nonstop. My under eyes just look so good. So good. These powders that I'm talking about also, they don't give any coverage, but they just look really good. As you can see, I'm partial to the vanilla shade, so I don't I don't love a lot of the just regular translucent white powders. I do have one that's a little whiter sitting in front of me that I'll show you, but I'm partial to the vanilla shades. This one's in the shade medium. I believe she came out with 3 shades, so they don't go very deep, but it's translucent, so definitely if you put it on, just make sure you're wiping it away good, and you shouldn't have any issues. Haven't had any issues with flashback or flash photography with this, and I'm kind of in love with it. It's very small, but again, it's a powder, so I feel like it'll last you for a long time. Okay, so this is the whitest powder that I have. This is the Pretty Vulgar, what is this one called? The Powder Room Matte About It Translucent Setting Powder. So this is one. Now, I like this powder again because it's super soft, super silky, but it's a little lighter up underneath the eyes. So if I'm looking to brighten, this is a good one. I don't put concealer mostly under my eyes to like cover dark circles because I don't really have dark circles. I put it under my eyes to brighten, and this is really, really nice to brighten with. I also should mention that I use these whiter powders to combat sometimes the yellowness in my concealer. So sometimes my concealer shades are really yellow, and I don't want to put a banana colored powder on top of that because then my under eyes just look really yellow and sallow, and it just doesn't look good. So if I'm using a more yellow based concealer, a lot of the times I like to use a vanilla based powder to really combat that and make sure that they work well together. So like I said, one of these I'll definitely probably be using if it's a yellow based concealer. Now again, this is really nice because it sets my concealer, but it also brightens really, really well. Love it. And the last under eye setting powder that I have is this one. It's the Huda Beauty. This is the Easy Bake Loose Baking and Setting Powder, and it's in the shade Blondie. Now, if you can see that, this one is a deeper yellow shade. So this is one of those powders. Again, if my concealer is really yellow, not gonna use this. But if it's like a shade like this is more of a vanilla colored concealer, and this one is the You Almost Stay Woke concealer. If I'm gonna use a concealer maybe in a vanilla shade like that, I will definitely pair it with a yellow based powder. That is something that I actually just recently learned, maybe within the last year. Before I would just pick a setting powder of my choosing. Now I put a little more thought into what setting powder goes with what concealers. And so this is really nice for my vanilla based concealers, like maybe my pinker concealers or my warmer concealers, maybe my pinker concealers, more vanilla looking concealers. This is really nice with that. I don't have a lot of banana setting powders anymore, believe it or not. That's all I used to use back in the day, and now I've kind of come back to the translucent, and I probably prefer translucent, as you could tell, but again, this just looks really nice with a certain color of concealer. And this stuff is super finely milled and just beautiful on the face, especially for my women of color. All right, now let's move into the face powders. So face powders, again, I would use those to set my entire face, to make sure that everything stays in place throughout the day, and also to kind of keep oils at bay as well. What I've been doing a lot lately is mixing face powders together. So sometimes I'll put a more mattifying powder with something that just has a little sheen, just because I want to get that glow, but I also want to be matte. So, you know, it's just, I'll mix them together. Makeup is so awesome because you can really do what you want. There are no rules. That's the reason I love makeup so much. And yeah, that's what I've been doing lately. So I've been mixing a lot of my favorite powders, foundations, all of that stuff, and it's really been working out. I feel like my skin has just been looking more flawless lately because I've been experimenting. But anyway, let's move into a powder that I know that you know is in this video already. This is the Sephora Microsmooth powder in the shade Tan. So I talk about this all the time because I absolutely love it. This is a total dupe for the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in Medium Deep. Swear to God, it's the same product. I promise you, it is like the same product. Now this one isn't gonna give you much coverage, but it just sets. It kind of gives you that finishing touch to your face. So I feel like when I have on my foundation and I don't set it, something just doesn't look right to me. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't look all the way done. But once I put on that setting powder, automatically I feel like I get this kind of filtered look and everything is just finished and kind of comes together, if that makes any sense. This powder does that very, very well. Again, you're not going to get much coverage. So if you're looking for more coverage in a powder, this isn't the one you want, but this is really beautiful on the face. Again, just to finish it up and like bring it all together. And this isn't a matte powder either. It's more of a natural finish powder. So if you're looking for a matte powder, this probably isn't it either. So I do have one drugstore option in this pile, and that is the Makeup Revolution. This is the Conceal and Define Satin Matte Powder Foundation. So sometimes I will set my makeup, I'll put on liquid foundation, then I'll set it with a powder foundation. I actually have two of them in this video to talk about, and this is one of them. So Makeup Revolution is such a great brand at the drugstore. You can find it at Ulta, and they have literally the entire line, and everything is just, everything to me works really great with Makeup Revolution. So this is one that I've recently hauled and I've been loving. Again, I will use this to set my liquid foundation. Anytime I'm using maybe a lighter coverage foundation, like a light to medium coverage foundation, or if I'm using a full coverage foundation, I'll go in with a really fluffy brush like this. This is the BH Cosmetics and It's My Ray Ray #1 brush. So I'll go in with a really light hand just to set, and I'll just kind of do one of these. And that'll help me set the look without giving it super coverage, because if I have on a full coverage foundation, I don't need super coverage. So this is really nice for setting my makeup. It is a satin matte finish, so it's not going to be a super flat matte, which is nice, and that's what I'm looking for these days. And this has been really beautiful throughout the winter. So let's talk about the other powder foundation that I have. This is another newer one to my collection. This is the Stay Naked The Fix Powder Foundation. This one's in the shade 60 WO. Oh, I think I forgot to tell you. This Makeup Revolution is in the shade P12. So, and then this one is 60 WO. And this goes perfectly with the Urban Decay Stay Naked foundation that I absolutely love. And so a lot of times I'll mix those together. You guys know I have a thing for kind of keeping with the same line. So if I'm wearing the Urban Decay foundation, I'm also wearing the concealer. I'm also wearing the powder foundation. And again, if I'm wearing that Urban Decay foundation, it has like medium to full coverage. I'll take a less dense brush and just kind of tap it onto the face to make sure that everything comes together and is finished. But if I'm wearing a lighter coverage foundation, or you can wear a powder foundation obviously by itself, I will take more of a dense brush and really get it on there to make sure I'm getting more coverage. So it's up to you how much coverage you need or you want, but you can definitely customize these powders to get what you want. This one also helps keep the oils at bay, and it's not too cakey on the face. Okay, last two powders. I know I've been kind of blabbing, but last two powders I have are, this is another one from Urban Decay. This is the All Nighter Waterproof Setting Powder. I actually just started pulling this back out maybe a month or two ago, and I was like, why did I stop using this again? This is one of the powders that I have been mixing with like every powder that I used, and this just provides me with a little more mattifying look. So if I know I'm going to work and I'm going to be out all day, like I may mix the Sephora Microsmooth powder with the Urban Decay All Nighter powder, and that just gives me a little more assurance that my makeup isn't moving and it's staying on all day. So this is a really nice one to mix. Not a big fan of using this all over the face by itself, and also not a big fan of using this underneath the eyes. I know it's that like under eye color, but I'm just not a fan of using it like that. I think the reason I stopped using it for a minute is because I didn't really know what to do with it. And then I was like, well, why aren't I just mixing this with other powders? And I did that, and all of a sudden my eyes were opened. So this powder I've been loving, again, as a mixer, but still. And last but not least, I have the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish powder. This is the Skin Perfecting Micro Powder. I have mine in the shade number 3 dark. This is the deepest shade, but it is by no means deep or dark. So I'm kind of like, shame on you, Charlotte Tilbury, for not coming out with more shades in this. I also have the number 2 that I can sometimes use underneath the eyes, but it's really not my favorite. And then sometimes I'll mix this shade number 3 with number 2, and I'll use them both on the face. This is just one of those gorgeous powders that kind of finishes out the face. No coverage really, but it really just kind of gives you like a flawless, filtered, airbrushed look on the face once you're done with all of your makeup. So I love this powder for that. I actually use it quite a bit, and it's definitely one of my favorites. Charlotte Tilbury is another bougie brand, but you know what? It's okay. So that is it, you guys. I hope this video was helpful for you and you learned something new about setting powders. Again, I'm a setting powder junkie, which you guys probably already know. So I love a good setting powder. So if you have any recommendations that you haven't seen me use, definitely leave them down below. I'd love to know what your favorite setting powders are. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want any other informative videos like this, make sure you leave it down below in the comment section. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, you guys.